Go. Hello, fellas. How we all doing? Welcome back to the Crowd Chair Podcast. Yikes, it's been some time. So welcome back. I think our last video actually might have been when I did the NFL playoff video. That was a while ago. So you can tell we're back, and today is some college basketball. And this is our first episode actually of the whole entire season because I had made videos, I never edited them, and I never ended up posting them. So they never actually came out. But today we actually have Sam with us. Appreciate him taking the time. So me and Sam today. And of course, with this being March, take a wild guess what is going on right now. March Madness, baby. So one of my favorite times of it really of all sports. You can't get much better than this. I absolutely love March Madness. It's so hard to beat this event, and it never disappoints. Every season is absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to see this year. So let's not waste any more time. Most of you probably know what the bracket is. If you don't, you'll just see it as we go along. And I'm just going to start in the top left, kind of like they do in selection show, go from the top left to the right, and then bottom left. So starting the top right, South region, I believe, is the top left. We have the number one seed Auburn taking on the
Are we not
winner.
doing the first four?
Well, we'll do the first four. You know what? Yeah, I can do the first four first, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just gonna do it as we go along, but yeah, we'll do the first four games right off bat. Why not? So yeah, that actually is starting tonight. We'll just do our first sport game here. We have St. Francis, PA. I think it's a St. Francis. I don't know what the heck it is. St. Francis, PA, I guess we'll go with, taking on the 16 seed of Alabama State. I don't know anything about these two teams. That's kind of the whole fun of picking these games because who the heck knows who's going to win. So I'm going to go with the team that's above 500, which is Alabama State, because St. Francis has a losing record. I don't know if they're any good. I don't know if Alabama State's any good, but I'll just go with the winning record team. I don't know anything about these two. I mean, they'll get the privilege of just getting absolutely smacked by Auburn. So sure, I'll take the Alabama State Hornets. I believe that's what they are. Sam, you're next.
Yeah, St. Francis, PA, from Pennsylvania. First tournament appearance, I believe.
Yeah, that
So
sounds great.
that's very exciting for them. Like Mitch said, whoever wins is going to get demolished by Auburn. But I'm going to go opposite just because there's not a lot to know about either two of these teams. But I do know if you're coming in hot off of a conference tournament win, if that's the way you got in, I think usually that gives you a little bit of momentum going into your first game. So I'm going to go with St. Francis.
All right. Sounds like a fun pick. And so now we'll move on to the next one, which of course also is tonight. We're recording this on the 18th, so these are all games that will be taking place on the 18th, and tonight will also be what I consider obviously the much more interesting game, being that of North Carolina and San Diego State. Now, of course, the selection show already happened. How in the world North Carolina made it with one quad one win is beyond me. Especially when you had West Virginia and Indiana, and even Ohio State, all of which had way more quad one wins and actual wins over tournament teams as opposed to North Carolina, who even lost at home to Stanford, by the way. So I don't know how in the world North Carolina got here. San Diego State, they're a decent team. It kind of makes sense they won the last few in. Um, I think this will be a good game just because North Carolina is a bigger school and obviously bigger team than the Aztecs are. But I have zero faith in North Carolina. If you can't even beat Stanford at home, how am I really supposed to trust you beating a good team in San Diego State? I'm not a UNC guy. I mean, I like UNC, but just their team this year does not intrigue me. I'm gonna go with San Diego State to win this one. It should be close, but I think this is a San Diego State win.
Yeah, North Carolina's played well as of late, winning 7 of their last 10, or I believe 7 of the last 10. Those three losses think two of them were to Duke, which I can't fault them for that. I mean, yes, it's a rivalry game, but North Carolina's been playing well as of late. San Diego State's big win is over Houston, came a little bit earlier in the year. And that's one of the main reasons I think they got in, uh, is
Oh
their
yeah.
win over Houston. Uh, North Carolina doesn't have much to hang on, but they played Duke really well recently. They played better as of late. I'm really hoping for some more from their guard play. And I think they'll get that this game. I think they'll get this game. I don't think they're going to get the next game now, but I think North Carolina's going to take the win over San Diego State.
I can certainly see it. I wouldn't be surprised. Like to your point, better guard play. RJ Davis is a very good player. He has been a little inconsistent. He hasn't been as good this year, which has really hurt them. But yeah, if he has a good game, which he's certainly capable of doing, obviously, that will
I mean,
be a
we've seen it in the
problem.
tournament before, for sure.
Oh yeah. So if he really plays well again, that will be a huge problem for San Diego State. So Sam going with UNC. So now we go to the other first four games. Those will be going on tomorrow. Starting with Mount St. Mary's taking on American. These two actually conveniently have the exact same record, which makes this a lot difficult for me to choose because, well, I don't know anything about them. They have the exact same record, so who the heck am I supposed to choose? Um, but I'm just gonna go with the I guess what would be technically the home team. I think that's at least listed as a home team. So I'll take American. I don't know, just because their name is American. So I also take them. So I'll just take the team that I don't know sounds more patriotic to me. I have no idea. Give me American. Now Sam, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, give me American because I'm proud to be an American. That's all I can
Amen.
say. Yeah, I really don't know much about either of these teams, but this one is just based off name, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this one.
Yeah, I mean, that was the same thing for me. I do actually, I mean, I've heard of Mount St. Mary's because that team actually does come. I think they used to be in the WCC with Gonzaga and St. Mary's. I believe. I think that's right. But I've never heard of who the heck American is. That's a new one for me. But all right, we both have got American winning that one. We are Americans. We are proud to be in the U.S. of A. So we'll go to the next one here. Our next for our actually our last first four game, which will be Xavier taking on Texas. This one I'm kind of confused on how on earth they got here. Texas, absolutely, I think, they have I mean, even though the record's kind of poor, they have a reason to be here with all the quad one wins they ended up getting within the SEC. They're probably had the worst profile because of their conference record and their overall record. Um, but Xavier, again, like North Carolina, one quad one win. I don't get it. I don't know what kind of. I mean, they did some new thing with their criteria this year of how teams get in, and I think it was just kind of dumb. If it's both Xavier and North Carolina got in with a combined two quad one wins, there's a problem. Um, but I'm taking Texas in this one. I have seen Xavier play. Xavier they're a solid team. I mean, they played Michigan, and Michigan had a good day, and Xavier did not, and we just blew them off the floor. But Xavier's a solid team. I just think Texas is a lot better. I also think they're significantly more battle tested in what has been absolutely brutal SEC. So I think Texas gets the win here. They're well coached by Rodney Terry. And so is Xavier. I mean, they have Sean Miller, the I think, Arizona coach over there. But I like Texas here. I'll take the Longhorns. Should be a fun game. Probably the best of the first four. But I'll take Texas to get the win here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great matchup. I think these are two teams that are coming off of their conference tournaments in crucial games. Texas had a big win over Texas A&M. That's probably what put them in the tournament. and Xavier had a really close loss to Marquette. They played in a really good game. I remember watching that game and watching Xavier down the stretch. They looked really well, and especially I would watch out for Xavier for Ryan Conwell. He's done really well towards the end of the season in guard play for the Musketeers. Man, he was hitting every single shot against Marquette. They didn't have a chance at the end because they were down by 5, but he went down and he casually just banked in a 3 to end the game, which was apparently a bad beat for some bettors on Marquette. Marquette at 2.5, but I like the guard play of Xavier more. I've seen them a lot more this year as opposed to Texas. I think this will probably be the best game in the first 4, and I've got Xavier pulling it off.
All right. Xavier does actually have Zach Fremantle too. I remember that's another good player from as well. He can really light it up too. But yeah, Xavier's they're an interesting team because they had such a good start to the year, and then we just kind of blew them off the floor, and they really weren't the same since. So they still got in. So we'll see how it goes. It should be like you said though. I think it'll be the best game of the first 4, absolutely for sure. Um, so now let's get into our brackets. Picking our champions, picking it all, man. Come on, let's get going. Some things will go pretty fast, obviously, because we don't need to really tell you why Auburn is about to blow the crap out of Alabama State or St. Francis. So I'd imagine for the both of us, we're going to be picking Auburn. I mean, I don't think I really need to ask that one. But next we have what should be a good game. I think this is actually the first game on Thursday, which is Louisville and Creighton, the 8-9 game in the South. We're gonna start with the South region, like I said earlier, and then we'll just go around um the different regions. But this I think is going to be a really good game. Should be really close. Louisville has had an outstanding season. But I'm going to go with Creighton in this one just because I'm not impressed by the ACC this year. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not impressed by Duke because Duke is insane. But really, all the other teams in the ACC, you look at just that overall conference. And, we talk about the SEC, we talk about the Big Ten. You don't need to be as good as those two conferences. You just need to have like a decent amount of good teams in your conference really to look like a solid team. The ACC is garbage. There's like maybe 6 teams, maybe 5 in that conference that are ever any good or that are any good this year. And okay, so you beat a bunch of garbage teams. Congratulations. That does that really make you, tournament worthy? I'm not so sure. And Louisville lost both times. Well, I think they lost. Yeah, they lost both times they played Duke. And I like Creighton's team. Normally, I don't pick Creighton because I can't stand the stinking Blue Jays. I always pick against them in the tournament, and they always burn me. So, you better win this time, stinking Creighton. um, but I'm gonna go with the Blue Jays. I'm not gonna keep killing time here. I'll hand over to Sam.
Yeah, I like Creighton too. They bring back Cockbrenner and the dynamite 3-point shooting team. Live by a 3, die by a 3. So I think that'll help them game 1, but I think it's going to kill them whenever they go up against Auburn. So I'm going with Creighton as well. Louisville, they have a new transfer, Chucky Hepburn from Wisconsin, who's
Oh
given
yeah,
them
that's
some
right.
life in the ACC. But I don't see them pulling it off. But it is technically a home game for Louisville. It's up there in Lexington. So they'll have that advantage if they were to move on and play Auburn. They would probably have the home crowd. So, I mean, if that's any factor at all, that could sway in Louisville's favor. But I just think Creighton's got a little too much size, a little too much hustle, and a little too much advantage. So I'm going to go with Creighton.
Yeah, I mean Louisville definitely, like you said, home field there. I mean they know Rupp Arena very well. They have to play in it many times, so familiar with Lexington. But yeah, like I said, I'm going with the Blue Jays there. We both got Blue Jays. Michigan Wolverines. We're just getting through it early here. Michigan Wolverines taking on UC San Diego. I completely disagree with the fact that they ended up giving us a 5 seed. I mean, I at least thought we probably should have been a 4. I mean, it's not terrible, but I thought 4. Um, But put us up against the best mid-major in the stinking country is kind of rude. Like I mean, and Serbenski said himself, you're gonna have to beat the good teams at some point, so why not just do it in the first round? Um, I think this is gonna be really tight. UC San Diego, yeah, you could question their actual competition that they played. Basically, everybody they lost to was good. And they also beat Utah State, who of course is a 10 seed in this tournament. The only thing about UC San Diego that I think Michigan has a advantage on is UC San Diego is not nearly as big, and Michigan, of course, has two gigantic 7-footers. It's a problem if you don't have the size to match up with those guys, and with the size that Michigan has, I don't necessarily want to do this because this is gonna be the trendy upset pick, of course, because UC San Diego, great season, Michigan kind of inconsistent. I think the Wolverines pull this off just because they're a bigger team. They have the size advantage here. I think they'll be able to push around the UC San Diego Tridents. It's been a fabulous season for UC San Diego, and I would have picked them if they were in any other stinking darn matchup. But of course, they gave them us. Why? um, but I think Wolverines get it done. I hope they get it done, but I think they'll get it done here. It'll be really close. It'll be an outstanding game. This one closes out, I think, Thursday. Should be really fun to see. But consider me a homer, but I'm taking the Wolverines.
Yeah, the only way Michigan wins this game is if they do not turn the ball over. We've seen two different Michigan teams throughout the season. One that has 15 plus turnovers a game, that plays in sloppy games against Nebraska and Rutgers, and a team that lost three down the stretch to Illinois and Michigan State and Maryland, where they didn't play their best basketball, or even early on in the season, they lost those close games against Oklahoma and Wake Forest. Like there's that team, and then there's the team that we saw in the Big Ten tourney, at least against Purdue and most of the game against Maryland, that shot lights out, had so many assists, more assists than way more assists than turnovers. It's going to be a close game, but like Mitch said, it's the size that comes down. Their tallest player, I believe, is 6'8". They have a 6'8" forward, which that's about 4 inches shorter than either Golden or Wolf. And if Michigan is smart, they will feed Golden pretty much all game. They will run that 4-5 pick and roll between Golden and Wolf, and that literally, pun pun intended here, should be golden for them and get them the victory. I'm going with Michigan.
Yeah, you probably could have been pretty safe in betting that we would both be taking the Wolverines there. So with the next one here, we're gonna have Texas A&M going up against the Yale Bulldogs. Of course, it would be really cool if Danny Wolf and Michigan were to move on, and then Yale would pull off the upset, and Danny Wolf would get to play his old team. I think there's actually a legitimate chance that happening. A&M is awful offensively. They have one guy who can actually shoot the ball. They're not necessarily the greatest team at rebounding. I think Yale has it here. They pull upsets. I think they can do it again. They've been just fine without Danny Wolf. And like I said, A&M's a horrible offensive team. They have one guy who can really score, and they're really not necessarily all that big. And really, all the good teams that they really played in the SEC, they kind of lost to them. So I think Yale pulls an upset here. They stun a lot of people. And I think the Yale Bulldogs and the Michigan Wolverines have an epic matchup of epic proportions, and Danny Wolf gets to have his revenge. That's mainly why I'm picking it. But, gotta have some fun. There's gonna be upsets, so might as well pick this one.
I had the same thought process, honestly, and I also went with Yale over Texas A&M. Buzz Williams has brought over a unique culture to Texas A&M where they value defense over offense for sure. I mean, he did the same thing at Virginia Tech as well, if I'm not mistaken. But Yale is good for one upset a year. They get that Auburn upset last year. A few years back, they got an upset over Baylor. They're a team that is dangerous, And if Michigan does play them in the second round, watch out, they're going to want to run. And Michigan isn't a running team all the time. So I think that'd be a really fun match if we get Michigan and Yale in the second round. So I'm going with Yale.
All right, both on the Yale Bulldogs here. Next we're gonna have the Ole Miss Rebels going on, or the number 6 Rebels and the number 11. As I have Aztecs, you have North Carolina. But I have Ole Miss and San Diego State. I'm taking Ole Miss. I like the Rebels. I love Chris Beard. He's an outstanding head coach. They always play tough defense. They almost always seem to have a good tournament run. This time at Texas was a little bit questionable, but that was off due to off court stuff. But this Ole Miss team starting to come into its own. It's a little bit small. It's a little bit on the smaller side. It's not necessarily that big of a team, but I think they can at least beat San Diego State. Whether they beat Iowa State, that I don't know. I'll we deal with that when I have to. But I got Ole Miss over San Diego State. You have Ole Miss and North Carolina, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, this is where North Carolina's tournament run comes to an end. I don't see a UCLA repeat here, first four to Final Four, or VCU first four to Final Four. But yeah, I like the way Ole Miss has played all year. Kind of been under the radar, I think, in the SEC. Just kind of floating just above average. And I think the North Carolina is not ready for an SEC team. That's for sure. If they can do it as well in the ACC, they're not gonna survive at all against Ole Miss. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss.
Alrighty, the Rebels, and then I imagine Um, and this one will be probably a quicker one. Iowa State and Lipscomb. I've heard of Lipscomb, and that is really about it. I don't really care about Lipscomb. Iowa State is missing one of their top scorers for the year. The Keyshawn Gilbert, I believe is what his name is, but he is out for the tournament, which is a big loss for him. But it's still Iowa State. I like the Cyclones here. I'd imagine. Oh, I'm too far down. I'd imagine you are too.
Now, this is my Cinderella pick for the year. I'm going
Oh,
with Lipscomb. Uh,
okay.
I don't like Iowa State. I think they've been fraudulent all year. Um, they play in a lot of low scoring games. Curtis Jones, though, is a really good shooter. He's got a nice shot, but I I think that injury, you said to Keyshawn Gilbert, right? I think
Yeah.
that's really gonna affect them. Um, so I mean, I like Lipscomb. They have chain offense. They're ready to run up and down the court with you, and I think this is going to be one of my Cinderella picks. So we'll see where they go out, but this starting out, this is my Cinderella pick.
Hmm. Okay. I like it. On to the 7-10 game. We have Marquette taking on New Mexico. Now, um, I like both coaches, honestly. I like Richard Pitino over at New Mexico, and of course Shaka Smart, obviously very good for Marquette. Both these teams are solid. I'm not going to go with Marquette though. I think bigger school, probably better players as well. New Mexico had a good year in the Mountain West, but they've kind of been fizzling out as of late. So I'm gonna go with Marquette here. I think they're probably just a safe. They're the safe pick, and there's nothing wrong with a safe pick here. And I'm also just because it's here. We're all picking Michigan State. Yes, we're Wolverine fans. We're not picking Bryant to beat Michigan State. They're not repeating Mid Tennessee State, so they're gonna beat Bryant. Unless you want to pick Bryant, I'm not doing it. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I would only pick Bryant if Kobe Bryant was playing for Bryant. That's probably the only way I could pick Bryant. Michigan State's been good all year. They've got solid NBA talent on that team, so I'm going to pick Michigan State over Bryant. And then I'm also going to go with Marquette over New Mexico. New Mexico is actually one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the NCAA, with averaging about 66%. So if this comes down to free throws at the end, which I think it will, I think it'll be a close game. If it comes down to free throws at the end, New Mexico State has no shot. And I think Marquette's going to thrive with that. So I've got the same as you. I got Marquette and Michigan State.
All right. I guess we'll just stay in the region. We'll keep on going until we pick the team going to the Final Four, then we'll just move on to the next region as we go. So going to the second round of this region, it would be Auburn. Well, actually, for both of us, it is Auburn and Creighton. For me, I mean, I like Creighton has a solid team, but they're not better than Auburn. I am taking the Auburn Tigers to go to the Sweet 16. They've been outstanding this year. Sure, the end of their season was a little rough, but this is still a really stinking good team. I think they knock off the Blue Jays of Creighton going on, taking on the winner of Michigan and Yale, which I think we all know who that's going to be between us. But I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so Creighton, like I said, they've had a good year. They got to the Big East championship game. They had a really solid year in the Big East, but I think it comes down to who is the best overall talent, and I think that's been Auburn most of the season. And I think Auburn gets it done pretty handily for Creighton. I think their 3-point shooting will fizzle out this game.
All right, and then I'll just make this pick for us. We're both taking Michigan to beat Yale. I think that's a pretty safe bet here. I mean, we're a bigger team than Yale. Kind of same story as what I was going to say with well, as I was saying with UC San Diego. I don't know if it'll be as close as the UC San Diego game, but I think we'll probably win by a bit of a bigger margin. Next I have well, you have
Well, with Michigan, every game's close.
oh, actually, you know what? That is true. We are the Minnesota Vikings of college basketball. That is very true. I gotta keep that in mind. For me, I have Ole Miss and Iowa State. Obviously, we'll get to Sam in a minute, but I got Ole Miss, Iowa State here. I like both of these teams, and this is a really tough pick for me because I love Chris Beard. He is an outstanding head coach. Every team that he has, always outstanding on the defensive end. They love to force mistakes. You know, shooting isn't necessarily always there, but they are outstanding on the defensive end. Ole Miss has picked up on the exact same thing. So, and with Iowa State, they like you said, Curtis Jones is a fabulous player. They also have an absolute tank of a center. I actually looked it up because as I kept seeing this field, I'm like, geez, how big is this guy? He's 6'11 and 274 pounds. And that's of all muscle. There's not fat, it's just pure muscle. So yeah, that guy is enormous. And that's when I get scared of picking Ole Miss here because I love the Rebels, but I get scared because that guy will abuse Ole Miss is, very small team. I still think Ole Miss gets it done now because of that defense. Like I said, I love Chris Beard. I think that the Rebels just like sneak just by Iowa State. They get to the Sweet 16 and take on either Michigan State or Marquette. And then you have Ole Miss and Lipscomb.
I do. Lipscomb as now remember this name. You're gonna want to remember this name because this is my Cinderella team, and I'm probably gonna botch it here. But his name is Agnatovich. Jacob Agnatovich, averaging 20 points a year from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Remember that name. He seems like you remember Ryan Custer from Loyola Chicago. Uh, he's got that kind of type of feel to him, and I think this Lipscomb team has got that Loyola Chicago type feel to them as well. And I think they're going to get it done against Ole Miss, and they're going to move on to play either Michigan State or Maryland.
All right. Uh, so this guy is gonna be the next Jack Golke, is that it?
Jack Golke, Ryan Custer, whatever you want to say. Yeah,
That's
I
true.
mean,
Yeah, that's true. All right.
when you looking at his 3-point field goal percentage, it's 40%. Uh, so that's pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty darn good. Next we have well, both of us have Marquette and Michigan State. It's bad for the Golden Eagles because they were a 2 seed a couple years ago, and they got Michigan State in the second round, and Michigan State ended up beating them, I think, decently handily. And now here they are again in the second round. They're about to lose again.
Yeah.
Um, I think I got Sparty here. Marquette's a solid team. They're not what they were. Was it last year that Michigan State beat them, or was it 2 years ago?
Um, I don't remember.
I think it might have been last year, or was Marquette? I think Marquette was a two last year, and yeah, so it'd be 2 years in a row. Yikes!
Right.
Poor Golden Eagles. Imagining that. Well, I don't know about you. I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, I've got Michigan State. I think Marquette has enough offense to stay with them, but the defense, the tenacity that Michigan State plays with, is going to be too much for Cam Jones and company to handle in Marquette. So I've got Michigan State.
All right. Now heading up to the Sweet 16, we've got the Wolverines and the Auburn Tigers. As much as I would, and I'm as much as it'd be cool to have a potential Michigan State matchup in the Elite Eight. I'm sorry, guys. Even I can't take the Wolverines to beat Auburn. I gotta go with the Tigers. They're with how deep they are, Johnny Broom, all the different players that they can throw out there constantly, with how good they've been in the SEC. Again, yes, bit of a lackadaisical end to the season, but this is a really stinking good team. As much as I think as much as I hope Michigan obviously will win, I don't think it's possible. I gotta go with Auburn here. What Sam? I'll hand it to you. Who you going with?
Yeah, I think the only way Michigan wins this game is if they play like that 2013 team did when they had to go up against the monster Kansas team. And they pulled off the upset then as the four seed over the one seed. Like Trey Donaldson, Trey Bird, any similarity whatsoever that's what it would have to be in order for this Michigan team to be this Auburn team. They're too good inside. They're too good outside. They're so well rounded from every aspect of the game. I have to go with Auburn here. Michigan has been too inconsistent this year to see them going past the Sweet 16. So I'm going with Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been a great season for the Wolverines. I mean, you look at where they were a season ago to now this year. Hard to really, say they've done anything wrong. I mean, they've been outstanding, absolute success of a year. I mean, year one will happen in year two. You know what I mean? So, for great season overall. You can't ask for much more if you're a Wolverine fan, and I'm not. I'm happy with what we've even gotten. If we even get to the Sweet 16, I'd be ecstatic. Um, but on the other side, you have Lipscomb and Michigan State. I got Ole Miss and Michigan State. I think we're gonna have the same result here because as much as I love Chris Beard, he ain't beating the Spartans. I've got Michigan State going to the Elite Eight. This is I'm not, this Michigan State team. It doesn't really have, I don't think, like a true star on it. It just has a lot of good players that all work together. Like, the sum, the sum is better than just one guy. I'm kind of forgetting the phrase, or I'm butchering it, I should say.
The
Um,
sum is better than one part. Yeah.
yeah, the sum is greater than the parts. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's kind of how I think this Michigan State team is. There's not a true star on it, but everybody else just plays together so well that it works anyway. Um, and I imagine you're going to take the same thing because you have them in Lipscomb, unless you're really picking them to go to the Elite Eight.
No, yeah, this is where Lipscomb's run comes to an end against the Spartans. It's yeah, this team is too well rounded. Izzo's too good of a coach. I can't wait for him to retire so we can finally beat them again. But yeah, I'm going with
uh,
MSU.
we're all waiting for that guy to finally call it a career. Um, and now both of us have an Elite Eight matchup of Auburn and Michigan State. Should be an entertaining game, but I think Bruce Pearl's squad gets it done. They go to San Antonio. The Auburn Tigers go to San Antonio. They knock off Michigan State in what should be an entertaining game, but I just think Auburn overall, like you said, well-rounded, just overall better team. I think they get it done against Sparty.
Yeah, I think the only thing Michigan State lacks here is probably size, matching up against Auburn, and maybe a little bit of depth too. When they go to their bench, there seems to be a little bit of drop, not too much of a drop, but it seems to be a little bit of drop. And you're almost convincing me to pick Auburn, but I didn't pick Auburn here. I picked Michigan State because Izzo just does that. I don't know why and where, unless he's playing Middle Tennessee State, he just does that. And I think he's going to take this. This team is hungry. This team lost to Wisconsin in the semifinal of the Big Ten tournament on a play that they thought should have been a foul, but it wasn't a foul. It was a clear block actually. But I think this team is hungry. This team wants to go back to the Final Four, and I think this team is going to do. I think Michigan State is going to get there.
All right. Hey, I don't disagree with that.
It could
I
go
can see
either
it.
way, though. I could see it either way.
Oh yeah, same here. I definitely could see it going the other way. So let's move on to the next region. We really need to get going through these. Uh, so going to the next region here, we're both taking Duke. We don't need to really explain that one. I don't care if America played in the first four. They're not beating Duke. Uh,
I don't
Mississippi
care if
State.
America has bald eagles on their team. They're not being duped.
Right. Uh, Now we got Mississippi State and Baylor. I'm not a Mississippi State fan. I've watched them play. They don't look good. Yes, they play in the SEC. Not every SEC, not all the 14 SEC teams are going to win. Yeah, that's and it's so insane that there's 14 of them out of 16, mind you. Only two of them didn't make it. But I think Baylor wins this one. They had high expectations going in the year, didn't necessarily live up to the hype. They still made it to the tournament. I think they're better than Mississippi State. They get the win here. Go play Duke.
I agree completely. I've got Baylor moving on this one. They've got their, I don't know who their star player is, but they do have that one star player that they keep talking about. That I never got his name.
The
Um,
Duke transfer, Jeremy Roach.
yes, yes, yep. They've got
There's
Roach.
also
They've got
was it VJ Edgecombe, I believe, is their other really good player.
yeah. I think they got more talent than on Mississippi State, and they'll probably win handily.
Yeah. I think Baylor Bears get this one done. Now we go to the 5-12 game in this region, which I gotta scroll up to. There it is. Oregon and Liberty. Man, I Oregon is such a hard team to figure out. Because early in the season, they beat Texas A&M, they beat San Diego State, they beat Bama. They looked outstanding, they looked unbeatable, and then they absolutely stunk for the next like 2 months. And they started the Big Ten going 5-8, and then they won their next 7 games in the Big Ten and finished at 12-8, and then ended up beating Indiana in the first round, who had been pretty good going into that game. And then, of course, they fell short of Michigan State. But this team makes no sense. What are you? But again, this is another team that's well coached. Dana Altman really knows how to get Oregon teams going in March. And as much as I really want to take Liberty here, and certainly could see Liberty getting it done. And there's been a 12 seed who wins like every single gosh dang tournament, so one of them's bound to win again. Uh, I don't think it's this one because Oregon has seemingly found itself again, and it's really hard for me. I don't know. It's just I don't know. That's the thing. I really don't know what to think of this Oregon team. But you're talking about Tom Izzo and getting his teams going for March. Dana Altman does the same thing. Whenever his teams get into March, even if they're like an 11 seed, they still somehow make a run. I don't get it, but these Oregon teams always seem to figure it out right around now. They're seemingly figuring it out again. I'll go with the Ducks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Mitch. Dana Altman really likes to switch up his defenses in March and really confuse the opponent that they're going up against. And I really like Nathan Biddle. I think he's an excellent center. I think he put up like 36 against Washington in the regular season finale. I think he's a deadly tool underneath the basket for Oregon, and I don't think Liberty has anybody really of that size to match up with them. We'll see. I think Liberty has a chance, but I
Oh
think
yeah.
Oregon's got a little too much.
Yeah, that's I tend to agree with you there. go Christians, obviously. Would love to see Liberty go on to heck Sweet 16 championship, wherever.
We've
Um,
seen them in a New Year's Six bowl game now, and now they're in the tournament. So they're definitely making a run in athletics. They've done really well for themselves recently.
yeah, that's and you speak of that New Year's Six game. That was against Oregon. So here they are again. Get some revenge for that New Year's Six game. Come on now. You can go beat down on the Oregon Duck basketball team now. Come on now. You guys got this. You got this. Moving on
We're
to
rooting for you, but we're not picking you.
yeah, what good Christians we are. Uh, going on to the next game here, we have Arizona and Akron, the 4-13 here. Um, Arizona is kind of the same thing as Oregon. I guess they're the opposite. They started off the season really poor. 4-5, I think, actually, to start the season. It was not good. But they really picked it up within Big 12 play, which isn't an easy conference. I mean, you got Kansas. We just talked about Baylor, who kind of had a rough year, but still Baylor. You have Houston in that conference. Texas Tech was really good. I mean, there's good teams in that conference, and that was when they really started to figure it out. And you got Caleb Love on that team. You got Jaden Bradley there. They got some other good players as well. I think Arizona gets this win here. They move on to take on the Oregon Ducks and what will be an old classic Pac-12 game. Conveniently in Seattle. Sam, over to you.
Yeah, I think I like this Akron team. I like them a lot. They came back and they won the MAC championship over Miami of Ohio. And Arizona always falters in the tournament. They always find a way to lose, whether it's Princeton, whether it's any other team. Like Arizona does not go far in this tournament, and so I think we're going to see the Zips pull off the upset. We're going to see an Akron, Oregon round of two, and I think they did that last time they were in the tournament. Did they play Michigan? I think like back in like 2015 or 14.
Akron?
It was either
I
Akron or VCU. I don't remember.
there was a MAC team that played them. It was Ohio. Um,
Oh yeah, Ohio. That's what I was thinking of. I was
yeah.
thinking of the MAC. Yeah, yeah.
Oh. Oh wait, you picked Akron. Why'd I put Arizona for you? Uh, so yeah, he's got the Akron Zips pulling off the upset. There's gonna be upsets this year. It's just a matter of which ones they are. So we'll see which ones those end up being. Um, next we have BYU and VCU. Looks like Sam is busy at the moment. Just so you guys know, Sam is actually I don't honestly know how Sam was able to do this. He's actually at work right now, but I guess he can somehow do the video. Kind of surprised by that. But um yeah, so here we are. But we got VCU taking on BYU. Um I got VCU winning this one. Not a BYU fan. Not a believer. Uh, really, I mean, they had a decent year in the Big 12, but you know, did they really have much more than that? I'm not really sure. I think BYU is a decent team. Like I said, upsets are going to happen in this tournament. I think this is one of the first. I think this is one of them that is going to happen. I got VCU pulling the upset. I'll wait for Sam while I keep going here. Wisconsin and Montana, the 3-14 game here. Um, I really want I'd love to see Montana win this game. It'd be absolutely hilarious to see the Badgers end up losing to Montana. I just don't think that'll happen. In Denver, of course, I'll take Wisconsin. I would love to see Montana win. I just don't think that happens. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt, the 7-10 game in this region. I think this is the East region. Um, as much I said earlier, how I'm not a Creighton fan. Um, I'm also not a St. Mary's fan or a Gonzaga fan for that matter. I can't stand the WCC. I mean, it's not as embarrassing now because they got Oregon State and Washington State in there. it's still not a good conference. Vanderbilt, I think, is a better team. Oh, I don't know about better team, but I think that they're more battle tested. I think this will be a decent game, but St. Mary's really has not beaten anyone. Um, and Vandy, you play in the SEC, you beat Kentucky at home, you beat Tennessee at home, you beat Ole Miss at home, like you beat several A&M on the road. I mean, this is a good Vanderbilt team. I think they get it done here in Cleveland against St. Mary's, get the win, move on to the second round, and they'll take on the winner of, or I'm sorry, they'll take on Alabama. They're not losing to Robert Morris. Let's be honest here. It is kind of like Robert Morris, I think, territory, but that should be a win for Alabama. So moving on to the next. Hello.
Oh, I'm back.
All right. Where did we leave off for you? I think it was the BYU game.
BYU and VCU.
All right. So I have the rest of the first round done for me, so I'll let you go on the next four.
Yeah. I picked BYU. Like I think they're very similar to Creighton type team. Live by the three, die by the three, so to speak. And I think that'll be a problem. And this VCU team concerns me because I watched them in the A10 against in the championship game against George Mason, and they got into foul trouble so quick. And they're not a very deep team. So if that happens to them again, I can definitely see them losing to BYU. Um, but they do have a former Michigan Wolverine on VCU and Zeb Jackson. He played in 2021 and 2022. I think he came off the bench a little bit, but I didn't remember him at first. But then when I looked at his stats, I was like, okay, I played like 5 to 10 minutes a game, so he definitely just came off the bench to provide some
Still
minutes.
there. I didn't know that.
But yeah, but I mean, I like to root for him. He didn't really hit many shots though in the game. He's usually the sixth man for VCU. He didn't hit a lot of shots in the A10 championship game. I have concerns about the VCU team. I have concerns about the BYU team, but I picked BYU. So that's after that is Wisconsin and Montana, right?
Yep. Wisconsin, Montana.
Yeah, yeah. I picked Wisconsin. I think they'll have a pretty easy time. I think Tanjay played absolutely unbelievable against MSU, and we had a good game plan against him. So if Montana has a good game plan against him, they might have a shot. But I think he's probably going to go off, and they're all going to have a really well game. They're not going to shoot, make 19 threes like they did against UCLA. But I think they'll do enough to
Definitely.
advance against UCLA, or not against UCLA, against Montana.
Right.
And then we had
St. Mary's
Vanderbilt
and Vandy.
and
Yeah.
St. Mary's. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like how St. Mary's played in the WWC championship game. They looked very sloppy. They were not efficient. They lost to a Gonzaga team that is not like former Gonzaga teams, not like those number one seed Gonzaga teams, those really good Gonzaga teams from years past. And they couldn't beat them in the championship game. They won the regular season, but when it came down to what it mattered, or I guess it doesn't really matter to the committee, the tournament
Apparently
championship
not.
games. Apparently not. But I think that's really important to the players and the coaches still. I think Vanderbilt gets it done, and I think Vanderbilt definitely got a well-deserved spot at number 10. I know they were kind of on the bubble, kind of seeing if they were going to be in or not, but I think they got a favorable matchup, and they'll move on to the second round, and then no question about it, Alabama, Robert Morris, Alabama.
Um, so back up to the top of up to the second round, we have Duke taking on Baylor. It will be, of course, Jeremy Roach against his old, team and the Duke Blue Devils. I don't stinking care. I'm taking Duke here. You're not beating Cooper Flag. Of course, there are questions on whether or not he's really fully healthy. He does have a sprained ankle. Supposed to be right for the tournament. Heck, he might not even play for the 16 seed game. Like, why would he? But I don't even care. He's playing on one stinking leg. Give me Duke. Duke's too good. They're too talented. Blue Devils all the way.
Yeah, this Duke team is way too good this year. Watching them play against Pittsburgh, North Carolina, even Illinois. Oh my goodness, they had such a game against Illinois that was scary. Honestly, any team that
Pretty
is in
rough.
Duke's path, watch out. And that includes Baylor. And Baylor's
Yeah,
going to go night night.
poor
So
Bear.
we're going to go Duke.
Yeah, poor Bears. Next we have, well, I have Pac-12 Classic in the Oregon Ducks and the Arizona Wildcats. Um, this is kind of flip a coin. Who the heck knows? Both of these teams can look really, really good. Both of these teams can look really, really bad. I never know what to think. Um, so it's really tough for me because it's like, again, like I said, both of these teams similar kind of pass. Arizona's horrible to start, pretty good to finish. Oregon, great to start, horrible in the middle, pretty good to finish. So it's like, who am I really going to get here? But I'm gonna go with just the more experienced coach. I'm gonna take the Oregon Ducks and Dana Altman. I think they get it done here and they just knock off Arizona. Should be a tight game, but I think the Ducks get done. They go on to get the privilege of getting pasted by the Blue Devils at Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, even though I have a different matchup. I have Oregon and Akron. Akron, it's interesting. If you look at the trends of the NCAA tournament over the years, a lot of the teams that get that upset in that first round, they just don't, except for the Cinderella teams like Loyola, Chicago, St. Peter's. We see a lot of the other
Princeton,
upsets, or what was it? Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City,
Three R's. Yeah.
Oral
Yeah.
Roberts. Yeah, you have one of those teams maybe every 2 years. Um, but once you get that first upset, like the Yales, or we see the Abilene Christians, or
Oh yeah.
those teams, it's just they can't seem to get it together for that second game because they're trying to live off the hype of the first game and first victory. And Oregon is just too talented. I think Oregon's going to take that game against Akron, and then go up against Duke.
Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, it is a quick turn. I mean, it's 2 days later. They have to play again. So, I mean, it is a little difficult for that one every time it really comes around like that. Uh, I'll have a different matchup again versus you because you actually don't know my picks for this. I went VCU over BYU, and I do have Wisconsin. So I have VCU, Wisconsin. You're gonna have BYU. Um, I don't know if we'll have the same result, but I am taking Wisconsin over VCU. Not a biggest Badger believer, but I think they can beat VCU. Um, I'll hand it to you for the Cougars and Badgers.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin, minus being in Duke's bracket, has probably one of the easiest paths to the Elite Eight, at least. And I think this BYU team, very similar to the Creighton team, so it's going to hurt them in this second round game against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a bit more consistent, well tested. They won 3 straight games in the Big Ten tournament. They have the star power. They have the bigs. They have it a pretty well rounded, pretty tough physical team. I mean, obviously not to the level of like a Duke or an Auburn, but they have that above average talent. They'll get them past BYU.
All right. And then we both have Vandy and Alabama. I did pick the Commodores. So it'll be the Crimson Tide. It'll be an SEC game, the Crimson Tide and the Commodores of Vandy. You bet I'm taking Alabama in this one. I love Alabama's team this year. I mean, I always like them. They're high octane offense. Defense is a little bit, here and there, but that offense is tough to stop. And yeah, good luck. Vandy, you had a good first game. I'm sorry, but this is where your short run comes to an end.
Yeah, I'm gonna concur on that one. I like Alabama in this matchup as well. I think uh, Vanderbilt they like to play fast, but Alabama likes to play faster. I think that's just the way it goes, and they have too much offensive firepower for Vanderbilt to deal with, and it'll probably be a high scoring game. I can definitely see it finishing in the 90s for both teams, but I think Alabama comes up top.
Oh yeah, every game with Bama is an absolute shootout. So it would not shock me, if Bama ends up, putting up 100 and Vandy's like a 90 or something. Uh, both of us will have Duke and Oregon. Well, actually, we'll both have the same matchups here. Duke and Oregon going in the Sweet 16. This is where Oregon's run ends. They get, blasted by Duke, yada, yada, yada. Okay, moving on. The interesting one is Wisconsin and Alabama. Now, I'm taking Alabama to win this one by a comfortable margin. I love the Crimson Tide. I think their defense picks it up a little bit. The one thing that Wisconsin cannot deal with, as Michigan just proved, is a team that will match them in physicality. That is Alabama. They play in the SEC. SEC can get pretty darn physical. I've seen Bama do it. I mean, Tennessee is, as physical of a team as it gets in the SEC, and Bama went toe to toe with them. So Bama can get physical. They can get dirty. They can get scrappy like Wisconsin. Although Wisconsin plays dirty, they don't play scrappy. But I got Bama winning this one for an epic classic of Duke Bama in the Elite Eight. Over to you.
I'm picking Wisconsin. I like what Nate Oates has done at Alabama. He has a fast-paced, high-octane offense. But I think Wisconsin slows the game down enough where Alabama's not playing a game that they want to play. I think the guard play. Klesman is an excellent three-point shooter. Klesman, you got Tanjay, you got Prowl, you got Winter. If they put on a performance like they did against UCLA, which I'm not saying they will, but if they put anything near that kind of performance, they do anything they did like they did against Michigan State, they can compete with the best in the country, I think. Um, so I'm going to pick Wisconsin to go over Alabama. So I'm going to have a Duke Wisconsin Elite Eight matchup, which is a rematch of Final Four 2015 championship game.
Um, might be. I don't know.
Kaminsky, Frank
The
Kaminsky.
Frank Kaminsky era. Dang,
Yeah.
that's a throwback.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the Elite Eight game, I got Duke and Alabama. I'm imagining we're gonna have the same result here. I love Bama's team, but Duke is gonna be a tough one. It should be a really good game, but it's Duke. I gotta take Duke here. They're too good. They're too talented. This is gonna be Duke all the way. Give me the Blue Devils. I'm imagining you're gonna go. Well, you might. I'm thinking you might go the same way here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Duke. They're such a scary team to watch. I fear for anybody that has to play them. I don't know if I could pick anybody against Duke right now. It's just the way that they've been playing down the stretch, demolishing every team. Like demolishing, besides except for maybe North Carolina, but just running through every team. I know the
And
ACC
that
is
was
not
without Cooper
impressive,
Flag.
right? Right. But I know the ACC is not impressive, but even that late season contest against Illinois, putting up 110 on them, it's just, yeah, I just can't pick against Duke. You know.
All right, and then we get to our next region here. I don't know if this is the West or the Midwest. I don't remember which one this is. Um, Next we have Houston and SIU Edwardsville. Never heard of that school until now. Don't have to explain why I'm taking Houston here. Congratulations to SIU Edwardsville on, I believe, what was their first ever tournament appearance. Congratulations on also getting your butt absolutely kicked in. Your tails actually. I'm sorry. Your tails absolutely kicked in by Houston. 8-9 game Gonzaga and Georgia. I'm gonna go with the Bulldogs here. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. They're both Bulldogs. I'm gonna go with the Georgia Bulldog. I think Georgia. I said this about St. Mary's earlier. I'm not a fan of WCC teams. Sam is currently busy. It looks like again. I'm not a fan of WCC teams. Yes, they don't do well. They don't perform well. Um, I gotta go with or not perform well. I don't like what WCC teams. They're competition is not very special. Gonzaga had, good non-conference games and they lost them all. So I think Georgia gets it done here. They go on to play Houston. Clemson and McNeese State. McNeese State was the plausible Cinderella team of last year with a 30-3 record. They were a 12 seed also last year, and then they got pit up against Gonzaga. I still picked them, and they got destroyed by Gonzaga. This year, I'm just gonna go right to it again. McNeese State upset win over the Clemson Tigers. I said before, I can't. AACC is garbage. It's not very good. Clemson, they did beat Duke one time, which was at home. But really, other than that, they really have not beaten anybody else. They lost to Georgia Tech. Non-conference wasn't amazing. I'm not big on this Clemson team. They're a solid team, but I think McNeese State, after last year getting curb stomped by Gonzaga, they're hungry for that upset win. They want that upset win. Coached by Will Wade, I think they get it done. Purdue and High Point, I'm going with the same kind of style here. Give me two upsets. I got High Point in their first ever tournament appearance, getting the upset over the Purdue Boilermakers. I'm not all in on Purdue. This is a Purdue team that really has been wildly inconsistent. We just saw Michigan absolutely demolish them in the Big Ten tournament. This team gets a little turnover happy. The High Point has a big guy that can match up against Trey Kaufman-Renn, and really their only other two good players are Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith. And Braden Smith has had a lot of turnover problems this year, with several games giving the ball away. And then when it comes to the other one, to Fletcher Lawyer, he's been okay, but I am not really all that enthusiastic about the Boilers. I think they get knocked off here by High Point, and we have ourselves another upset in the Midwest region. Illinois and I have Texas. Sam has Xavier when Sam gets back. Obviously, we'll do his picks. Um, Illinois and Texas. Um, Tough one here, because Illinois is another Big Ten team that has kind of been all over the place. You don't really know what to expect from them. Um, I'm not big on Illinois. I like Texas. I like the Texas team. I'm gonna go with the Longhorns here. I think they just are a little bit of a better squad in general. I think they get it done against the Illini, and they move on to the second round. Kentucky and Troy, not much I really have to say here. I don't know. This Kentucky team is fantastic in any means, but I think Kentucky gets it done here. They knock off uh, Troy. Next, we have UCLA taking on Utah State. Um, I'm going with UCLA here. I don't know a ton about Utah State, but um, I think the Bruins are just a better team. I've seen them play a little bit. They have some solid players. Utah State, what do they really have? Um, then I'm gonna go then Tennessee and Wofford. I don't really have to explain why I have Tennessee winning this game. Volunteers go to the second round. Then we go back up here. We have Houston and Georgia. Now, Houston is a
I can
team I
speak. I just can't
absolutely.
quite
What was
king
that?
me. I can speak.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'll head over to you. I actually already went through the entire first round, so we will go to Sam here. Wait, I went way past. So we're just gonna we'll go over to Sam. I don't have to really explain why I'm sure you're picking Houston too.
Yep.
All right. Then we have 8-9 game Gonzaga and Georgia. Which Bulldog is better?
Yeah. The team with the same two mascots. We had that happen a couple 2 years ago when we were at Kentucky playing Kansas State against 2018. And then that's happened multiple times. But I'm going with Gonzaga. I like how they finished out the year, and I love Mark Few coach teams. I mean, he is consistent. He knows what he's doing when it comes to the tournament. I like David Altman, a lot like Tom Izzo. It's hard for me to bet against him. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga. Good night, Ethan.
All right. And then you got Clemson and McNeese State, or McNeese, or whatever you want to go with.
I I like this Clemson team. I like how they played against Duke in their matchup at home. They really pressured Flag. They really pressured that entire Duke team and forced them to take shots they didn't like. McNeese State, they had those expectations on them last year to be the upset team. I think they have those expectations on them again to be the upset team this year. And I think that's going to get to them. They're going to pick Clemson.
All right, Clemson Tigers. And then you got Purdue and High Point. High Point in its first, I believe, tournament appearance in their history.
This is the first time I've ever heard of a team called High Point. Like, what kind of university is that? But honestly, I don't like how Purdue's played. I don't think they should have been a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. It definitely shouldn't have been above Michigan because we've beaten them twice already. I don't think they have that good of a resume to warrant that. I think their name is just Purdue, and that's why they got a 4 seed, honestly. So I'm going with the upset. I'm going with high.
All right, you're with me because I did High Point too. Um, and then I had Illinois, Texas. You have Illinois and Xavier.
I don't like this Illinois team. Like I said, I don't think that many teams in the Big Ten are good this year. Illinois has been wildly inconsistent all year long. They haven't. They've shown times when they can play good, especially against Michigan in Chrysler Center. But I don't see them getting it done here against this Xavier team, which I'm high on. And I really think the committee made a smart decision putting them in. I know they didn't have that. They didn't have the resume, so to speak, but I think they passed the eye test. So I like Xavier going on against Illinois.
All right, and then I don't. I'm sure you're picking. Well, I don't know. Kentucky and Troy in the next one.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about Troy's season. Nothing really high to mark them on. I'm going with Kentucky. They don't have John Calipari anymore, so they might actually do well in the tournament. As opposed to the last few years. So we'll see if things turn around for Kentucky. I'm picking up their on.
All right, on with the Wildcats, and then you got UCLA and Utah State. I'm sure I can pick Tennessee for you.
Oh yeah, I have Tennessee over Walford. Walford's always a fun team to watch. They seem to make it into the tournament nearly every year. Um, Love to see them get an upset over Tennessee, just because Tennessee knows how to blow it. It's tournament time, but I don't think they blow it this early. Tennessee wins, and then I don't like the UCLA. I don't like a lot of the Big Ten teams. I like Michigan State. I like Maryland. I like Michigan sometimes. I like Wisconsin. But this UCLA team, um, they were good to start off the year. They haven't really done much then. They got a nice little run there at the end of the year when the other teams were losing to get that double bye, but they're still being crushed by Wisconsin. I like Utah State this match.
All right. And then we're on to the second round. I have you went Gonzaga. I have Houston and Georgia. I went Bulldog. I went with the Georgia Bulldog. Um, but I'm going with I have the Houston Cougars though. Moving on, getting past Georgia. I love this Houston team. Really, the thing for Houston that I thought they always lacked was offense. That was always their problem. And, it was the same thing with Tennessee. They never had offense. Houston never had offense. I always hated those two because I couldn't stand the fact that they just could never score. I'm like, you got to score to win. But with Houston now being one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, and they've been extremely consistent from the beyond the arc. Of course, they're also dealing with some injury issues with Jawan Roberts. We'll see whether or not he's really healthy once he gets to the tournament. But this is a Houston team that, like you say, against Duke, Duke is at Houston is absolutely nasty, and I'd feel sorry for any team that has to come across them. But you have Houston and Gonzaga for your second round game.
Yeah, I really like this matchup. I love the coaching matchup here. Calvin Sampson and Mark Few. What a great matchup we're gonna get there. I mean, we had that fiasco a few years ago. I don't remember what Charles Barkley said, but he said what we thought was one of the funniest things in the world. What Calvin Sampson was saying to his guys in the locker room at halftime against that Baylor, that Final Four when they played against Baylor in 2021. I don't know if you remember what he said. But
Oh my God. Oh, of course I do. You know,
oh, you do.
so what are the players saying? What are the players saying in the locker room right now? So what time we going home tonight?
What time's our flight?
It's still one of the
Oh,
best things I've ever heard.
it was. It was that one got me. But
Oh my
what's going to
gosh.
get you here is I think Gonzaga is going to pull off the upset. I think Houston is going down in the round of 32 market right now. We had Villanova a couple of years ago go down to that Wisconsin team in that 1-8 matchup. I think Mark Few has a game plan in mind for this Houston team. They play small teams well. Houston is another small team, small man, mostly it's size, but small being Big 12. They moved up from the American to the Big 12. I say that's for him. Um, but you get that kind of feel from that Houston team, and I like Gonzaga to pull off the upset. Moving on.
All right. So Sam with the upset here. Now my second round game on the other side is gonna be a little wild. Because you have High Point in Clemson. I have High Point in McNeese State. So this should be really fun. I don't know who the heck I'm going to take for this one. I have, of course, I picked both upsets here. Um, eh, uh, I'll pick the coach that I know. I'll go with Will Wade and the Cowboys and McNeese State. They move on to the Sweet 16. I just picked one of them. They're both small teams. Who the heck knows? You have Clemson in High Point. Okay. Well, I guess I'll keep moving on. So going back up to where I am at, I did McNeese State and High Point. Uh, Texas and Kentucky. This is another team that's dealing with injury problems. Lamont Butler, the big time San Diego Straight, San Diego State, yikes, transfer that they end up getting. So we'll have to see. I don't know if he's healthy right now or not. I don't think he is at the moment, which is why I'm going to go with Texas here. I does Kentucky I don't think is that healthy right now, so I'm gonna go the Longhorns to continue moving on. This is a good Texas team, kind of finding their stride here at the end of the year. I love Texas. I think they move on to Indy, playing the winner of UCLA and Tennessee. Tennessee is a very tough defensive team. I think they can just get it done against Texas or I'm sorry, against UCLA, foreshadowing. Uh, I think they'll get it done against UCLA. They knock off the Bruins and they head to the Sweet 16 over in Indianapolis. And then for me, I have Houston and Nittany State. I'm taking. I've got Houston. I love this Houston team. They're so sneaking good. Overall, I love the Cougars. I got Houston in the Elite Eight, and then on the other end we have Tennessee and Texas. Will be a rematch of the SEC title game. I think Tennessee gets it done once again. Rick Barnes, a very good head coach. I think Tennessee. I think Rick Barnes and Tennessee get it done. Volunteers to the Elite Eight, which will create probably one of the toughest games to watch in all of college basketball because you're about to see the top two defenses heading off against each other, which will be Houston and Tennessee. Yeah, this might end in the 40s, maybe even 30s, because these will be this game of basketball could set this game could set basketball back a good decade. It could be that low scoring, but Houston has the better offense. I think they get it done. They go to San Antonio, they knock off they knock off the Volunteers, and they'll go on be going on to face the Duke Blue Devils. Sam seems to be still unavailable at the moment, so we'll get to him
No,
soon.
I'm available. I don't know why I muted myself.
Oh, so you're just listening to me that whole time?
Yes, I was.
All right. Um, so, well, we're all right. I'll head over to you then. Let's see. Where did I even leave off for you? I don't even know. Oh yes, Clemson and High Point.
Yeah, I picked. Oh, I was picking, and I think I muted myself, and I was wondering why you were talking when I was talking, and then I realized that I muted myself. So I picked Clemson. I like this Clemson team, and I think the point of the tournament is that one win over Purdue. And I think it's going to be all down to them.
All right, so Clemson Tigers. Then we have Xavier and Kentucky for you.
Yep, and for the same reason that you have, that injured Kentucky team. Not sure if they're the healthiest. Going with Xavier, like I said, I'm really high on Xavier. Think they can get it done, and I think they're going to be one of those first four dream teams.
All right, and then you have Utah State and Tennessee. I had UCLA, but Utah State and Tennessee.
I think that one's pretty easy for me. I'm going with Tennessee. I really like how they finished out the year at the SEC. Those tournament wins over Alabama, getting to the championship game against Florida, playing them well. I mean, because the first two times they played, they either got blown out or they blew out Florida, which is really interesting. Um, but I think it's going to be a good game. But I think Tennessee just has more firepower than Utah State.
All right, and then you have Gonzaga and Clemson.
I'm high on the Clemson team. That one win over Duke just really stands out to me. So, yeah, as I think Duke is definitely one of the best, if not the best team in the tournament. I think it's Duke. And I think Clemson win over Duke is really just standing out to me right now. I think they're going to get to the Elite Eight. They're going to beat Gonzaga.
All right, and then Xavier and Tennessee.
I think this is where Rick Barnes and the Tennessee team, they get over the hump. They get to the Elite Eight. And I'm also going to pick them over Clemson in the final.
All right, so you have the Volunteers heading all the way to the Final Four. They'll be facing Duke in San Antonio. I have Houston, he has Tennessee. And so now we head over to our last and final region, that being the West region, starting with we're all taking Florida here. I mean, we're not picking Norfolk State. I know they beat, what was it, Missouri, who was a 2 seed a couple of years ago. They're not going to beat Florida. Sorry, guys. I'm sure that's a pretty safe pick for the both of us.
Yeah, it is a safe pick.
All right. Now next we have the Yukon Huskies taking on the Oklahoma Sooners, the back-to-back defending national champs. They still made it as an 8 seed, but they still made it. And they'll take on Oklahoma team that similarly to Texas really struggled in the SEC. Oklahoma was incredible in the non-conference, going 13-0 to start the season, all didn't lose a game in the non-conference. Then went 6-12 in the SEC. They who they beat? They beat Georgia, I believe, in the SEC tournament, and then I think they lost again in a harsh one to Kentucky. This should be a fun game. This is I don't remember, or actually I have the date right here. This is a Friday game. This should be really tight. This should be really fun, but I'm gonna go with Dan Hurley's squad to keep the dream of a back alive, of a three-peat, I should say. The dream of a three-peat alive. They knock off Oklahoma in the round one game.
Yeah, I'm going with UConn as well. I like what I've seen at Terrace Reed Jr. I wish he would have stayed with the Wolverines. They would have 3 7-footers in there. Um,
Hmm.
but ultimately, he just got a better advantage over at UConn. I like what I've seen out of him. His footwork, he's become a more versatile center. UConn and Soto at guard or Solo. That's it. I'm thinking of baseball. Juan Soto at guard for the Huskies now. A solo ball. for UConn. When he plays well, they do well. Oklahoma, if they have that magic from the earlier part of the year, I can see them doing really well in this game. But I think UConn just has too much. They've got that resume, and they're going to move on to the second round.
All right. And then our next one here, we have the 5 seed Memphis taking on Colorado State. I'm high on this Memphis team. This is a Memphis teams are always long, they're always athletic. And this team, I think, is one of the best ones that, why am I blacking out on his name right now? Um, Memphis head coach. Why can I not think of the guy's name?
Penny Hardaway.
Penny Hardaway, that's right. I think this is one of the best teams that he has had at Memphis. PJ Haggerty is outstanding. Another injury issue for them. There's kind of questions on whether or not Tyrese Hunter will play for them. Obviously, you might remember him from Iowa State or from Texas, one of the two. They also have Dane Danger on that team. Also being brought back was Musa Cisse for Memphis. This is a team that's absolutely, like I said, really long, really athletic. They're always like that, but I think this is one of the best teams that Penny Hardaway has had in some time. I think they knock off Colorado State. They go to the second round.
I'm really high on this Colorado State team. One of the bid stealers, one of the few bid stealers that we have in the NCAA tournament selection show this year was Colorado State. I think they knocked out Boise State, honestly, by beating them twice at the end of the year. They had to knock out New Mexico to get to the conference tournament championship against Boise State. They're playing really hot to end the year. I love teams that are hot going into March. They play the best. Memphis has done really well as well. That's why this is such a hard game to pick. They've done so well all year, and they've gotten hot at the right time. I think Colorado State is going to push themselves over the edge, and they're going to pick up the upset because I think this is the only five. Yeah, this is the only 5-12 upset I have, and this is the one that's going to happen. That Colorado State.
Certainly could see it. And then we got the other game here. We got Maryland and Grand Canyon. Another Christian school, by the way. But this should be it might be a decent game. I've got Maryland though. I like the Terps here. Um, Grand Canyon, and I'd love to see the Antelopes win, but I think Maryland's too good of a team. I got the Terps with the win. Moving on to play Memphis.
Yeah, I got Maryland too. Maryland's really impressed me all year long. Their one concern, which is going to be a concern trying to go far in the tournament, is depth. All of their top five scorers, starters, all in double digits. That's going to bode well for them until if they get in foul trouble, it's going to be really tricky. Grant Canyon knows how to play. They know how to play a really good style where they just keep passing the ball around, try to wear you out on defense. I've taken all shots. I think and Grand Canyon is actually associated with CFNI. So that's why I've got a few schools where go from CFNI, which is the school I graduated from. Then you can go and get your bachelor's or whatever only in 2 years. So yeah, and another good school, but I think Maryland just stick with you.
All right. And next one we have the 6-11 game, Missouri and Drake. Drake is another mid-major that had an outstanding season. I mean, 30-3 is pretty insane. Um, and I was considering taking Drake until I saw their opponent, which is Missouri, and I really like Missouri. This is a team that is very good offensively. You got Mark Mitchell down low. You got Caleb Grill outside. This is a team that much like Alabama, loves to light up the scoreboard. I think Missouri can certainly light up the scoreboard against Drake. I think they get this one done. I think they knock off the Bulldogs. They go to the next round, knocking off Drake in Wichita.
I fully agree with you. I watched Drake in their championship game. Uh, who they beat Bradley, I think.
Think so,
And
yeah.
yeah, they they dominated in that game, uh, especially from the second half. But Missouri, I think, has a little too much on their side going for them. Helps that they're in the SEC. I mean, for most of these teams, it helps that they were in the SEC, getting a lot of good competition all year round, and they're prepared for an opponent like Drake. So I like Missouri to win this one.
All righty. And then next we have Texas Tech, the 3 seed, and then the 14 seed of UNC Wilmington. Um, I know that I don't know if they're like healthy now. I know Texas Tech had been missing a bunch of guys due to injuries. Like three of their top scorers or something were all out due to injuries for extended periods. So I don't really know how healthy Texas Tech really is right now. I mean, I know Chance McMillan was hurt. You know, they had a Darian Williams hurt as well. So I don't really know if these guys are all in healthy right now. Um, I don't think they'll lose necessarily to UNC Wilmington, but this is one I'd keep an eye on because I think there is certainly question marks on the health of that Texas Tech team. Good season in the Big 12. I don't think UNC Wilmington will do it, but I think there's still some question marks with health with the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I don't know too much about UNC Wilmington. I know it's a late game, and I know Texas Tech is a good resume in the tournament. I think they'll probably get by this one pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, we both got Red Raiders here. Next we're gonna have a team that I think is one of the more interesting ones in the tournament. The Kansas Jayhawks, the 7 seed, taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. This is by the way, this is also a fantastic coaching matchup. You talk about great coaching matchups with, the possibility of Mark Few and Kelvin Sampson, having all and those types of, matchups. How about John Calipari and Bill Self going at it again? I mean, you don't get better than that. This is an awesome first round matchup game. I think Kansas wins it. I just think Kansas is a better team. They obviously had a really rough end to the season. It was not that pretty. But this is a Kansas team that I mean, this was the preseason number one in the stinking. What were you saying?
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, um, but this is the preseason number one team in the stinking country, and it is very hard to really say that I think anyone really would beat them. I mean, this is an outstanding Kansas team. I love this team. I think they beat. It won't be a closer game, but they'll knock off Arkansas. And I'll just say it right now. I'm not a big believer in St. John's, but it's Omaha. I should hope they beat Omaha. So I'll give the Red Storm the win over uh good old Omaha. Now leave the other ones up to you.
Yeah, I think yeah, that Arkansas and Kansas game is a great first round matchup, and then the possibility of an even better second round matchup between either St. John's or Arkansas or Kansas. You got Rick Pitino potentially going up against John Calipari in that rivalry. That's the one I'm looking forward to, and that's the one that I picked. I picked Arkansas and St. John's to move on. Arkansas, I think they had a really good win over Michigan earlier in the year, and Kansas has kind of been falling off a cliff, so I'm going with Arkansas.
All right. Now heading up to the top of the second round now. As we're getting closer here, we have we both have the Florida Gators and the Yukon Huskies. Florida's had an outstanding season, and you know, this is this is a really close one here. Um, I think it's gonna be really tight. But I'm going to go. Um, personally, I'm taking UConn. Give me the Huskies to take the upset over the Florida Gators. I got UConn. The three-peat will remain alive. I've got Huskies. I've got them moving on. They knock off Florida. They go to Sweet 16 in San Francisco. Should be an absolutely outstanding game. Um, but I think UConn gets it done, and looks like we'll be uh, losing Sam here. He does have a job that he has to work. Um, so I'll put in the rest of his picks from him. We got for a for a pretty good time, honestly. Pretty long time, I should say. So for Sam, he has Florida and UConn, and he has picked Florida. So he has the Florida Gators getting the win over the Yukon Huskies. Moving on to the Sweet 16. I don't disagree with that one necessarily. I just think UConn gets it done. Should be a tight game. I could certainly see it going the other way. I have Memphis and Maryland. As I said earlier, I'm very high on this Memphis team. I love the Memphis Tigers. I think this is a really stinking good team. Maryland will make things tough for them. They do have some size themselves, but as we mentioned earlier, Maryland does not have much of a bench. Their depth is extremely questionable. You're already playing a game 2 days later. You know, that's and you already played games in the Big Ten tournament. I think Maryland's going to be a little bit fatigued by it. They might end up being a little fatigued by this one. So I'm going to go here with the Maryland Terrapins to get or I'm sorry, the Memphis Tigers. The other win over Maryland. As I said, no Sam. So we'll be working with him for the rest of this video, which shouldn't be that much longer. So now, and then he has Colorado State and Maryland, and he has Maryland with the win over Colorado State. So Maryland Terrapins moving on. They go to Sweet 16. Then for me, I have Texas Tech and Missouri. There are questions on health for Texas Tech, even if there weren't. I'm still taking Missouri. I love this Missouri team. They absolutely can light up the scoreboard. Tigers can really play. This is a very good Missouri squad. I'm going with Missouri to move on to the Sweet 16. And then we go down to Sam, who has the Texas Tech Red Raiders moving on to the Sweet 16. And then we go back to me because I have can he's gonna have Arkansas and St. John's. I have Kansas and St. John's. And with me, I am taking Kansas. I love this Kansas team. Like I said earlier, yes, they have a rough end to the season, but now you've got several days to work on stuff, really get things together. Tournament setting, definitely going to change some things. This is Bill Self. He knows what he's doing. He's going to get the win here. Kansas moves on. And then going down to Sam, he's going to have Arkansas and St. John's, Calipari versus Patino. Obviously, it would be really fun to see that. He has St. John's getting the win. Moving on uh, to the Sweet 16. Then you go back to me. I'm going to have UConn and Memphis. He's going to have Florida and Maryland. I've got the Memphis Tigers winning this one. I think UConn, and the rematch here, I think Memphis gets it done once again. This is a very good team. As I said, really high on Memphis. They go to Elite Eight. This is where the UConn run ends. The dream of the three-peat dies here. Good run for for UConn for sure. I'm sorry, or yeah, for UConn for sure. But the Memphis Tigers will put them out of their misery. I think this is where it ends for them. And then as for Sam is Florida and Maryland. He has Florida. He has the Gators going to the Elite Eight, who will take on um, his winner of St. John's and Texas Tech. I was blanking on who it was. Um, as for me, my game, he has St. John's and Texas Tech. I have Kansas and Missouri, which would be an epic rivalry rematch. But I have the Kansas Jayhawks. Like I said, I love Kansas. This is a really stinking good team. They were the number one preseason ranked team to begin the season. A little rough to end the season, but got plenty of time to work on stuff. Really good overall team. I've got Kansas taking it. And then he's going to have St. John's and Texas Tech. He has got the Red Storm of St. John's. St. John's going to the Elite Eight to take on the Florida Gators in San Francisco. All right. I'm trying to get this done really quickly because the first four game was actually about to start really soon, and I don't miss March Madness. I have Kansas and Memphis. Tough game here to choose because I love both teams. I think Kansas, though, just has a little bit more than Memphis. I think this is where the run for Penny Hardaway's team ends. I think the Jayhawks go to the Final Four to take on Auburn. As for Sam, he's going to have, of course, Florida and St. John's. I think he took Florida. He did take Florida. So he's got the Gators going on to take on, oh, yeah, that's right, to take on Michigan State in San Antonio. And now it's finally time for our Final Four picks. So I'll start with my Final Four. I'll do all of mine, and then I'll do all of his. I've got Auburn and Kansas. This is where the magical Kansas run, I think, comes to an end. I think the Auburn Tigers win this one. They go to the national championship game. Just most complete team, I think, in basketball. They have just everything you would want in a title contender. And then Duke and Houston, I said it earlier. I absolutely love Houston's team. They have just such tough defense. I think this is where uh, Duke finally meets their match, and Houston gets it done. They move on to the national championship game. Duke will be a really tough out, obviously, for the Cougars. Cooper Flag's going to be a tough one to deal with. But if there's anyone who can figure out how to get a body on them and get some stops on them, it's Kelvin Sampson. Give me Houston. And then between Auburn and Houston, I'm going with Houston. I've got the Houston Cougars, the tough defense, 3-D. I think Houston gets it done. They are my national champions. I absolutely adore this Houston team. They're so hard to beat, and I don't think that anyone's doing it this year. I think it's Houston who goes all the way, wins the Natty, Houston Cougars for the championship. And now we have Sam, who has actually a pretty much entirely different Final Four than me, other than Duke. He's got Michigan State and Florida, of which he has the Florida Gators getting the win here, knocking off Michigan State. So Florida moving on to the Final Four, or I'm sorry, it's the national championship game. On the other side, he's got Duke and Tennessee, of which he has, Duke. So he's got the Blue Devils moving on to the national championship game. And then in the national championship game, Duke and Florida would be a cool matchup. Duke, Florida. Oh, he's got the Gators. Gator champ all the way for the national championship for Sam. And that is it for all of us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, we lost Sam at the tail end due to, obviously him having to work. Um, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been a long time since we've obviously made one. Um, Obviously it's a great time of year. Our first college basketball game is actually going to start in about a minute or two here. So I'm gonna head out of here. If you want to compete with us, say if you think you're better than me and Sam at picking the NCAA tournament, and you think you can do more than what we did, then go ahead and take your chance. I'm going to link our bracket challenge in the description down below. It is public. Anyone can join. Um, have at it. I do have a limit on the entries because it'd be way too many entries. Um, so I do have it on two. I do one just for fun, getting playing in a team I want to win, and then just doing whatever I want with the other stuff. And then my actual serious bracket of what I think will really happen. I do have it limited to two entries though, so it doesn't get too wild. Like, oh, I'll take this team to win, this team to win, this team to win. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, that link will be down in the description down below. Please go ahead and join, and well, let's see how you can do against the likes of us. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, hopefully, I'll have some MLB stuff coming out. I'll have to see. Obviously, much busier. Don't really have necessarily as much time to do a lot of this stuff. Happy to get this one in, but haven't necessarily been able to do that all the time. So that's it for me. That's it for it was it for Sam a while ago, but that's it for both of us. And we'll see you on the next one. Until then, adios, everybody.